Chapter 28, The Impossible Dream. Later that afternoon, the Midnight Gang began planning the night's adventure. George's dream was to fly. This would take some thinking, especially as it seemed the top brass at the hospital were onto them. With Sally downstairs receiving her special treatment and Nurse Mies sitting in the matron's office, the children set to work. The children's ward of Lord Front Hospital had a few tatty old ball games. There was a snakes and ladders set that had no dice, a jigsaw of a cute white kitten playing with some balloons that had a number of missing pieces, and a game of operation with no batteries, so the patient's nose never lit up red. Tom, Amber, George and Robin were all present to work on the jigsaw together as they talked in hushed tones about tonight's adventure. "Maybe we could make a glider out of sheets and curtain poles," suggested Robin. "The porter can help us put everything together." "But where would we fly it?" replied Amber. "There's nowhere high enough in the hospital." "There's the stairwell," said Robin. "This hospital goes up 44 floors, so it must be a long drop." Excuse me," said George. "I want to fly, not die." "You would have a glider," replied Robin. "Well, I would have some sheets and poles tied together. That's not the same thing," said George, a little too loudly. All eyes turned to the office, but Nurse Mies was busy with all her paperwork. "Well, maybe you shouldn't have had such an impossible dream," remarked Amber. "But it's always been my dream. I hate being heavy like this." George slapped his big stomach and it wobbled like jelly for a few seconds. "I want to feel what it's like to be as light as air." Tom had been listening to everything and searching his mind for an answer. As he placed a jigsaw piece down on the tray table in front of him, he realised the answer was staring at them all in the face. "Balloons," he said. "What?" asked George. "Let's not go down, let's go up," said Tom. "Please, would you be so kind as to explain, new boy," said Amber. "You know at a birthday party, when sometimes they have those special balloons that float," began Tom, his words tumbling out in excitement. The other children all nodded in agreement. "Well, if we could get our hands in enough of them, then George could start at the bottom of the stairwell and float up." George smiled. "Tom, I love it." "Are there enough balloons in Britain?" asked Robin. "Very funny," replied George. "I bet there are enough dotted around this hospital," replied Tom. "Patients often have them tied to their beds. There's one right over there." With his eyes, Tom indicated over to Sally's bed. One lonely balloon with "Get Well Soon" printed on it was tied to her headboard. It was floating in the air, just shy of the ceiling. "What a brilliant idea of mine," said Amber. The girl obviously wanted to be back in charge again and didn't like this new boy stealing her thunder. "What?" protested Tom. "I was about to suggest balloons just before you did," she fibbed. "Of course you were," said Tom. "Come on, ladies, let's not fall out," joked Robin. "I bet there are hundreds of those balloons in this hospital," said George in a rush of excitement. "There's loads for sale in the gift shop on the ground floor. I often sneak down there to buy a chocolate bar or two. All we need to do is steal them." "Borrow them?" said Tom. "Yeah, the boy is right," added Robin. "Borrow them. It's a much nicer word than steal." "As soon as we've borrowed enough," said George, "I'll be able to fly right up to the top of the stairwell. I will finally take to the air." George's face was glowing with joy at the thought. The plan was so simple, it was brilliant. "Let's go and tell our mate Porter." All the children had to do now was steal hundreds upon hundreds of balloons from all over the hospital without getting caught.